welcome back. What I like to call and celebrate as still my birthday month, which usually I move so fast and so quick, but I feel like because it's Virgo season still, and really always, we are the superstars of astrology. you know, um, Virgo, Hive, all the stuff. I feel like I've been really trying my best to maintain a little bit more, just for now at least, a little more like peace and serenity. At least I'm trying to. But let's talk about this season. This is episode number 9 of Real Housewives of New York. Season number 14, which is sort of a little bit of a revamp season. All the girls are clocking in and they're showing up, and we're getting to see Anguilla, and it's beautiful. But it's always those little small yet detrimental arguments that kind of go on. I want to jump right in. I want to make sure that I try to do a quicker episode. I say that every time, but one idea leads to the next, to the next, to the next. But let's just start here. Some of the favorite moments or quotes that kind of comes to mind for me is going to be how Ubah says, well, if you share, they criticize you, and if you don't share, they criticize you. Now, I'm not exactly sure how she said it, but it was something along those lines, and it is very much the truth. It's like, oh, we need you to share, we need you to share, we need you to share, and then you share, and it's like, nope, that's not the way it goes for you. It's like, how are you going to tell somebody else how it is for them? I also love, we have a quick moment, and I'll get to like the breakdown of the show in a second. We also have a moment with Jessel talking to Pavid about all this beautiful, oh, it's so gorgeous, and the water and the villa and everything's great. And then there's like a big moment where they're like, and the Wi-Fi is amazing, which is good because they got to communicate, but it's also like the Wi-Fi being amazing was like a big deal to them. And then another thing that I enjoyed is that Jessel, boy, she just says, what planet does she live on? I really love it. But she says, oh, the beach isn't angry like our beaches. Like, I don't really know, but also very good and okay. So let's start the episode. Do I have anything to tell you? I'm trying to think. Do I have anything to tell you? No, we'll get to it. Actually, before we start the episode, we might as well do a little how you could support the channel, because we're doing an episode solo dolo, and who doesn't love a little support? So let's check this out, and then we'll come back and we'll talk.
Well, hello there. Thank you for watching and supporting the show with my good friend, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Who the hell am I? Great question. My name is Mark Rodriguez with Mastermind Media, and I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know about all the other incredible things this guy, Randomly Ronnie Jr. has going on. But first, before we get into that, please comment, like, and subscribe. That is how he grows here on these channels. But one channel you probably don't know about is patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr., where he's got a bunch more exclusive content. So please check that out. But speaking of YouTube, let's go back to YouTube for a second. He's got this hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr., and it shows all of his stuff in his days in radio from back in the day, all the way up to present day, and his new interviews, podcasts, just videos across the board. So please check that out, because when you think about content creators, there's millions of content creators, but there's only one, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Let's get back into the show.
Okay, that's right. We got to listen to what Mark says. He is not telling any lies. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is them all going to have dinner. This is coming off of, sort of them chatting with Jenna. It was a little bit coming from the last episode, but we instantly get into like a fun vibe, which we like. Brynn says, the inappropriate comments about Erin and Abe, and that comes up again. Yet there's an apology, but it's not necessarily an apology that we sort of expect. It's kind of like, I apologize for this, but not for this. And I like the way Erin handled it. She's just very like, so you're apologizing because you said it was boring, not because you overstepped. And by the way, what is your opinion on that? I mean, there are many people who think Brynn is, the bee's knees, ham and cheese. She's mother, all the things. I feel like she's Leah's cousin, and when I say Leah's cousin, I mean she's like teetering on like the Leahville of it all. How Leah just staged so many things and like purposely pushed to be over the top, but then it didn't really work. But then maybe like a tweet or two kind of made sense. That's what she's giving me is Brynn. So I think, to me, honestly, the way Erin did this, I thought the best way to do it was very non-confrontational and just say, I am a little bit like confused. Now, Brynn gets a little bit like, well, what do you mean confused? Brynn's point of view, in my opinion, has to do with the fact that she has been flirty, and so she doesn't necessarily, I don't know if she doesn't understand why, or she doesn't feel like it's warranted that people, like, if you're gonna be flirty, that's fine. But like there's some reaction that comes to that, and she's very defensive over the reaction because I imagine some of the, like, people maybe over the years have accused her of doing things that are like less than savory, which, I got no problem. Everyone do what you got to do, get you a little fly out situation or whatever, or find you a rich man, do whatever. Nothing is the problem. There's zero judgment on any of that. But I feel like Brynn plays close to a lot of those things, and then people will just kind of like, cordially talk with her, and she's very like, how dare you, like, how dare you accuse me? And it's like, in my opinion, I don't think like Erin or anyone was accusing anybody, but I do think that Ubah makes a lot of sense. Like, listen, I'm not here to defend Erin per se, but like, it is an anniversary. There are certain things you don't say, but like I say, for Brynn, I feel like it's a lot of things that come from certain triggering moments, like she had the moment with the gifts, she's like, she kind of connects gift giving to another thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And Brynn has always said why she shows up so big and so goofy. She says a lot of it has to do with her childhood, which I value that. But the concept as a teachable moment for even Brynn is like, when people joke back with you, they're not always after you. I think that's a good way to think about it. They're not always after you. Sometimes it's merely like, it's kind of like, so I have an aunt. Out of all the aunts, they're all wonderful people, but like I have one that like, she doesn't really curse a lot. So, you better not, people will teach you how to treat them, So my point is like, if you present such a comfortableness, sometimes people accidentally will say like something and they don't know that you feel defensive over it. Does that make sense? So like, again, I always equate that in my own mind. I'm like, if you are, depending how vulgar you want to talk around somebody, or if you want to curse, or what topics you want to touch, once you start doing that, you can't be really responsible for the way people react to you. And what I'm also saying is, I understand where Brynn is protecting herself. Like, I understand the protection, but I also think, again, a little bit of a teachable moment that like, not all of it could be triggering for her, but not all of it is like an attack on her, Anyways, we get to the conversation of Jenna, business class, the gifts, Judith sharing on a deeper level. So this to me is just like one of those things, like, I feel like she is sharing, and I feel like they need her to all but like have a mental breakdown for them to feel like she's not in with the conversations. And one part of me has to sort of think that, is this a little bit a situation of like, she's the big star of the show, and in order to kind of make my star rise, I got to kind of like, have an issue with her. I don't know. Something is not adding up for this, in my opinion. It's already, and also I think like a little bit of it is sometimes people come into these situations and they want to like keep score suddenly. Like, you can't turn down the fact that Jenna is who she is. You can't like turn down the fact that she is very prominent. People really love her. And I think it's kind of, I mean, this is not a fair equivalent, but it's just like where my mind goes. Like, Portia coming in, no offense, but you weren't, and you've done well, but like, you'll never be a Kenya Moore. I'm talking about that early season, and it's like to make it like, well, we have to be at the same page, same level. We're not at the same level. And I think that some of these people, Sai or Brynn, they're kind of reaching for like to either pull Jenna down or to pull themselves up, like, and they're both fabulous. It's a little much in terms of what is going on, because we do get as a fan, as a viewer, we get a little tired of it. Jenna does share her mother's story though, which is valuable. She speaks about a lot of those issues, and the way the household ran is why she is the way she is. And I think it's also that question that I've always had, which is like, just because you don't go back to these certain moments, sometimes people are like, oh, well, you should be able to go back to this at any time. And I think some stuff just stays behind. Like, keep it way back there. Like, you don't have to bring everything now because the other person, like a Brynn, wants to share everything. That's great, but it doesn't mean that this person is holding out against you. And I think, like, at the end of the day, I think there's just a little bit of a like, oh, we don't want her to skate by without having to give as much as we're giving, which I have so much of that in me. Usually when I watch these shows, I'm like, you can't have like everyone else showing up and clocking in and then somebody taking the easy route. But I don't think that Jenna is taking the easy route. And there's a value in itself that who she is brought eyeballs to the show, gave it a little bit of like credibility and legitimacy of this show that was going to be hard to get off the ground. Real Housewives in New York losing the amazing Dorinda and I mean Luann and Sonia and all these gals that people really enjoyed, albeit they had a tougher season 13. Like, you sort of needed somebody like that. So I don't know. I feel like you can't necessarily say Jenna's not showing up. Now, what was funny to me is Jessel sharing her story, and Jessel sort of becoming or is, the exact experience of the simple life is what they're trying to say. She's trying to say no, 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 no. And it was this and it was that. But gosh, bless her heart. I just love her so much because I don't really know what the bottom line is in terms of what her actual factual story is, but I still just enjoy it so much because she is just such a fun watch. I mean, even if it was the most triumphant and traumatic and she overcame, or if it was the easy breezy golden spoon, it doesn't really matter. It was the fact that she mentions one thing and 3 seconds later and she's like, and this is why this famous fashion photographer scouted such and such and I was associated. Like, she name drops so easily even when she's trying to tell a really rough story. So I think in the previews we're going to get to the bottom of where that is, and if people are going to say like, we're calling you out on it, but right now, it just, to me, was really good fun for the show. So we kind of get through the little situation. Like I said, I'm glad that Erin and Brynn sort of made amends. There was a little bit of a difference of opinions, but they did move forward, which is what we like. We love a Brynn and Erin frenemy situation. So we get to the car. Everything feels good with this dinner. And then all of a sudden they're talking about, well, this was a little bit of what our travel situation was. And Ubah's like, oh, okay. And there was like a conversation that it came up of like, W.A.P. So Erin is like, I mean, essentially Jenna is like, okay, I of course know what that is. Erin's like, I don't get it. And I guess she hadn't really followed the Cardi B song or whatever. And beyond that, Erin kind of gives a little bit of a disdain over it, which I kind of feel. I kind of am like, as I say with Brynn, she's Leah's cousin because she just keeps on. Everything is, just a little bit. It doesn't always. It's kind of like a comic. You know what I mean? Like a comic should be able to go there and be a little bit like risque and vulgar and like, polarizing or whatever. But like, if that's what you sit on, whoa, whoa. If that if that's what you sit on, and that's all, you're like a one note, it gets a little bit boring. So it just was a further sort of like difference that gave Erin a little bit more of like, I mean, it just let Erin be Erin in the best kind of like judgmental way, which, of course I enjoy and value. And I always tell you, I was on that Watch What Happens Live with Candy Andy and Erin Lichy. So I'm going to have a little bit of a bias, and that will never change. That will probably never change. Anyway, can I tell you something that was interesting? So I'll get to the rest of the show here, but in the comments on my show, somebody decided, and by the way, let me first tell you that there's 954 episodes across all the platforms in terms of hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. So if you don't find one interesting with 954, oof, right? Like that means hang it up randomly, Ronnie. But the point is, somebody had the nerve. But I love it though. I love it. Not that I love the comment, but I love like we had a little bit of a back and forth, and we're both Virgos, so it's like it's all good. But this one is funny because it's like, oh, all your recaps you trail off about your life and your past career. It's all about you, which I'm like, okay, the first thing I'll tell you is I will instantly say, yes, I'm very Larsa Pippen in that moment. If you remember on the Real Housewives of Miami, Adriana's like, Larsa, it's not about you. To which Larsa says, it's always about me. So yes. And by the way, it's not even just that. It's more of when you're telling the show's top moments, sometimes you have to give perspective as to why you judge in a certain way. So like, I'm gonna bring up certain things if I can see through things a little bit better than the average regular viewer, in terms of, you know, like I said, I've been on the programming side within radio, in front of the mic, behind the mic, with television, worked at America's Got Talent, worked at Married at First Sight, all these shows. So I kind of see things a little bit different. So you're going to bring it up. Anyways, the comment was funny. I really don't have any problems with it. I will tell you though, gosh, oh my, I spent too much time talking about me. Let's get back to the show. Jeez. No, I'm kidding. And yes, support the Patreon. That would be valuable. Or go to the hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. You'll see recaps of Housewives of New Jersey, Housewives of Miami, and all these other things too. I once interviewed GizelleBryant. I'm just mentioning the stuff that is accordance to what we're talking about. So the next morning, we've got the reaction. There's kind of like a little bit of a reaction amongst all the ladies with Brynn. We've got Jenna being worried about going to the beach and the beach attire and how her body's a little bit different. And she's a little bit older too. In the conversation, we never hear, well, also she's a little older. You know, that would be another reason, not just, you know, the genetic disorder that Jenna has, but also she's not the same age, you know, and age does play an impact. It's fine, but like life is very much different in those times and in those ways. And sometimes there are things that you wouldn't register as an insecurity, but you will proceed with caution in a different way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just a really crazy morning, kind of, because you got coughing, you've got hair on the table, or like, not hair on the table, but like somebody's combing their hair. It's just a little bit of a busy morning as they're getting ready to set out into their day. Now we sort of jump right into a lot of conversations and everyone's sharing. And Sai, who, you know, even we say sometimes that being a social media influencer could make it a little challenging to show up because you're so used to showing up in a very curated and a perfectionist way. And this was a great aspect of sharing. And I think it was sort of brought in when Jenna's talking a little bit and they're kind of saying, oh, because your mom didn't really show you love in a certain way because of her own challenges. You know, how do you do that with your son? And I love the way that Sai did jump in and she's like, well, you know, I sometimes feel like I say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you to my kids, because she felt like there was maybe some disconnect within her mom. Now she does go on to say, which I really love this, and I'm so glad that they kept this in the edit because they necessarily did not need to. Sometimes you'll mention a bunch of things and sometimes the edit won't, you know, the segment producers won't allow things to get in because they're like, oh, we need it to be more polarizing. But I'm glad we got a lot of like what went on between the mother and what appeared to be alcoholism. But for just to have that brief second for Sai to say, but I want it to be known, I only want to talk highly of my mother. Like, and it is that. It's not saying if there's a challenge that has been going on in your life and in your world that you can talk about that challenge, but you could also talk highly of the person. The thing that really got me was, of course, that critical decision that she had to make when it came to taking her mother, you know, off of the machines and whatnot, and, you know, kind of having that final moment with her. One of my aunts years ago had suffered, you know, a bit of a situation, and throughout a couple months in the summer, but like specifically in September on my birthday, was when it was sort of that decision was made. So yeah, it's a difficult decision when you're pushed to that level. You know, I couldn't even imagine what my cousins and my aunts and uncles were dealing with within that, but to have to make that decision. Now, the comic relief that we luckily get on the show, because we are really happy to see all these different sides, is Jessel saying, well, was it a Hermes bag at least? Because Sai goes on to say, oh yeah, there was a moment, or not a moment, but her ashes. This is what we plan to do, like, you know, plant a tree at our home upstate, and like, you know, all this beautiful things. But she was saying in the moment, she's, you know, not in an urn, but she's in a bag or something like that. The ashes, and so it's just the little silliness that you need to like give, what is the word, levity to the episode. So I'm glad that Jessel comes in with just the silliness, you know, because it was very necessary. So we go on the beach. In my opinion, there wasn't a lot going on. Like there was a lot of fun, flirty stuff in terms of not flirting, but like talking about ooh, we gotta find a way for Jessel to hook up with Pavitt. And this is Brynn and Erin. So we love to see the good side of the two of them. You know what I mean? Like it's always cool to see them sort of in cahoots rather than arguing. But I will say that the beach stuff was fun. Visually, it looked cool. They had the fun little photo shoot, but it felt like, did it feel like I felt like I was watching TikTok TV? Like it was just like stuff going on, real boom, 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 boom. Not my kind of television. And I imagine anyone who loved the real, not the real, the original Real Housewives of New York, where things took a little longer, the pacing was a little slower, the conversations were more authentic. I was just like, this is fun, but like it's like TikTok TV. Like I just felt like there was, when I was watching it both times, because I tried to watch it 2 times, I was like, oh, there's not really anything to take from this. For the most, like I said, it was the advocating for Jessel and what are we going to do for her and Pavitt. And I do like that, but like, the silly scene about like, oh, and the sun and it penetrates this and that. I'm just like, I know there's an audience for it, but I just, I'm over 40 now. I'm just like, oh God, can we get Leah's cousin off the show? Brynn is Leah's cousin. I mean, not really, but like they just have watched TV too much, or they perform for Twitter too easily, and they just don't say anything interesting in real life. It's like very like, huh? And the thing is, like, that kind of stuff serves online. So I'm just, as I stated, I'm not the demographic or the audience for it. Anyways, we've got even in my notes, I say lots of specific talk. I won't say what word was written, but nonetheless. So then we sort of get to the end of the episode, which is they're all eating again, which makes Sai so happy because Sai loves to eat. Sai is just about boring when it comes to her talking about the eating yet again, but I guess she I don't know why they keep editing that in, because it is just unfunny, completely unfunny. She's a skinny girl that just loves to eat all day, every day. Well, anyways, also going on with the eating is Sai asked Brynn, oh, what's going on with the dating? And again, she just can't give like a human, regular person answer. She's got to go right into like, oh yeah, well, during the summer I was dating 3 people at a time. And it's like funny because in my mind, when somebody's just so silly, I'm just like, okay, because you're like saying something to create a reaction. I guess because of the show, you have to give a reaction. But I sometimes wish the other girls would just be like, okay, 3 dates sounds good. Not, oh, 3 dates. Wow, that's wacky. What's the story there? That's what they do, but I'm kind of like, ugh. So anyway, she goes on to say like, oh yeah, it's like coffee and then a drink and then dinner all in one day. And it's just like, so, huh? What, huh? But anyways, that's what she said. And again, it's that same thing I kind of talked about earlier, Brynn's concept of like, she's very into the, how dare you accuse me of these certain things. But then she like is very nonchalant about a lot of these things. She's very like, doesn't take a lot of these things seriously. And I'm just like, it's hard. I would imagine it would be hard to be around someone like that, because she just wants to keep pushing. There's nothing wrong with that. But usually when you push like that or be silly like that, you're not as defensive on the way back. Usually you're like joking about all of this stuff and vagina this, vagina that, as she said at the beach. And then you sort of like are okay. But it's like a weird level of like, maybe her insecurities are like really showing up on this show. I really don't know. Anyway, but it gets a little bit worse, because then it gets into like, oh yeah, well, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get ready to freeze my eggs. But then like, I was told that, and obviously I don't know a thing about any of this, but what really it came down to was like Erin calling her out on freezing eggs, and like, she's saying things are serious, like these things are actually happening. But so it's like, I feel like for Erin and the rest of the girls, it's like, are we just gonna believe everything you say? Are you saying things to get a rise? Are you saying these things to get a rise out of us? Like, it makes it kind of like an unfun person to hang out with. Now listen, if this is what she's doing, she has that prerogative to do it. And being a woman of a certain age, that is a challenge in terms of what she's going to do and make those decisions. So I very much value that part of it. But her getting so snippy with Erin just didn't seem, again, she's becoming an unfun hangout. because it sounds like you're being funny, but then I guess you're not. So, anyways, that's where the scene was. And they just kind of go back and forth a little bit. The next day, we see that I guess I don't know. She like I mean, she said she was sorry, and she did talk to both people. She talked to Sai and she talked to Erin. And I guess, like, maybe there's a part of her that's like, oh, okay, I'm like seeing stuff about myself that maybe I never saw before. And yeah, if I'm being this playful about certain things and no one's believing me, like I said, it's a very much like it's hard to believe somebody who always is so, whimsical with the, oh yeah, 3 dates, and oh yeah, this, and oh yeah, I'm with this one and that one. And it's like, no one's it's just it seems like the same. I feel like we're having the same conversation when it comes to Brynn. Brynn will want to be shocking and all of these things, and then the moment somebody speaks to that, it's like, how dare you? Like everything sadly, because I do like Brynn, everything seems to really bug her. So there's a lot to that. But I just think it was great that there was a moment of like her saying, listen, Sai, I'm just not going to go out with you guys. And listen, Erin, I just, there's a little bit of me that's sensitive. So I just need to disconnect a little bit. And I think that was great. I'm one of the few people who like loves those parts of these shows. I know everyone loves like a big moment where someone, oh, she served, that was a serve, da 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 da. I'm very like, I love resolution and like, you know what, that was me, I messed up, or this was my side of it. Not even I messed up, because it doesn't mean you need to admit guilt, but like, you know what, this was something I need to work on, or something that you said that and it kind of took me to a place, it wasn't really you at all, let's just move forward. I like that for the show, I really do. And again, for the most part, as I say, I've got no real viewpoint in terms of, I'm just more like listening and enjoying the show, of some of these things that are like actual issues that women will go through. You know what I mean? It's a great show for that. So we all get our popcorn and we enjoy it. And I always say, or I've been saying it lately, I don't know why I'm so kind all of a sudden, but it's like, actually I did an episode recently where I was like, who sucks? Well, it was a person who does suck. But the point is, they are all on these shows. Reality TV is a difficult thing to do. I've had reality TV cameras follow me, and I don't want to say luckily, but like it was a shorter experience. Doing it where it's a long experience and you have to appease these big audiences and you have to be your regular human self, and what carries online, and the affirmations, the being discredited, the story not really being told the way you would have wanted to tell it. Like I said, I mentioned it before, I think it was important for Sai to say, my mom, she had this issue, but I want to make sure that I say, by no means was she not an amazing human being. And I think that a lot of these shows don't allow both sides. Usually that's like the format of reality TV. So I want to give a little bit of like positive like affirmation that there might be more to a lot of these women, and they're just making a television show. I could still feel what I feel, which is Sai and Brynn are the ones who are the most on the chopping block in terms of like, they're not really giving us a lot to the show. Jenna is, Erin is, Jessel is, and Ubah is, but Sai and Brynn, they're kind of like, there's just something, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it too, because I believe there was a post about Sai indicating that Ubah is actually one of the driving forces as to why Sai and Brynn, I guess in the current moment, not when they filmed the show, but in the current moment, Sai and Brynn aren't besties like they once were. And I guess Sai is starting to let more know about that, more being known about that conversation. And I guess Ubah's somewhat involved. So this is going to be interesting. I just hope more people watch the show. Things do take a while to get started, thinking about like when Real Housewives of New York, sort of, they didn't do a revamp like this in a new era like this, but I mean, that season that came in with like, what was it, 4 new ladies, Heather, Aviva, Carol, and Kristen, like that was, it takes a while for you to really like know them and enjoy them, and stop with the comparing of the old cast, or former rather, and then you still want to see the former cast members too. I still say put Jill on this cast, new era featuring Jill Zarin fabrics. like I'm okay with it. Anyways, it was a cool episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I tried to add a lot of other fun elements to it, and just keep it moving. But that is it for now. Real Housewives of New York, season number 14, episode number 9. We are almost done with the episode. Do your due diligence, comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll talk to you on the, on the next one.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.